Alright, starting out another Crystal video with me resetting the clock. For no reason other than because I want to show the absurdity of the fact that I got this password again. I think when I got it the last time, it might have not been this password, actually. It might have been, like, 12340. But it was something really similar, at least, and I don't know how that keeps happening, because it's based off of your ID and the amount of money you have, and, like, your ID and your name obviously stay the same, and those are both part of the formula, but the amount of money really should not be, like, the same both times that I've done that. That's really weird. Anyway, I don't even really need to adjust the time here, but I wanted it to be 5:30, and I did one attempt at this before, 5 minutes ago, as you could tell, which was me failing to remember what I had, what I had taught Rock Smash to. So I floundered around in the PC for a couple minutes before remembering I had a box specifically for team members with a Krabby in it. So I got to spare you the excellence of that. However, I do actually want to change the PC box back to the one with the open space in it and not the, like, team member box. So let's do that real quick. Oh, it's already on it. Never mind. So last time, we cleared out the entirety of the Team Rocket takeover bullshit, and that opened the ability to go catch Suicune, to which I say, no, thanks, I don't want to. So we're just gonna kind of move on. And, I don't know how long this video is gonna be, actually. I am hoping to kind of make this one that isn't, like, 2 hours long. Basically just kind of getting through the next couple sections of the game and probably not even doing the next gym. Not every video has to be a, like, 6-month endeavor to make. So, we're gonna avoid trainers because in case I have to change the time again, where was this when Worcester was looking for something? But no, rather than force me to, look up the time-changing code again in case I don't catch all of the daytime exclusives before the half hour is up. I'm going to be avoiding trainers so that I don't get money. We'll just try and catch the stuff that I want to catch, and then wait for night to roll over and catch the new stuff that I want to catch. And then everything will be brown. So, I actually don't know what the encounter rates are in this place for the things I'm looking for. There should be one Pokemon, which is decidedly this one, which is a daytime-only Pokemon, so let's go ahead and try and get it then. Sure do love when I have to plan for my 4-minute pauses for the bios, but it's fine. I do actually have Pokeballs, right? Okay. I don't have a lot of them. I should probably get more. Hopefully that's enough to catch a Lickitung. Also, I'm noticing how absurdly long the animation for that move is. It's pretty good. Also, Debbie is like one battle away from evolving. I know this because I wanted to make sure that I could actually get into Ice Path without doing the Suicune stuff, and fought one trainer with one Pokemon and got an evolution out of it. Okay, so yeah, as long as this thing doesn't break out of 9 Pokeballs or, like, run away or something, which I don't know if it can, I'm guessing it probably can't, then we should be good here, so insert Lickitung bio here. Lickitung is one of those quintessential forgettable Gen 1 Pokemon. It falls into a lot of the same traps as the other ones do. It's a single stager, up until Gen 4 at least. It's a normal type. It has a really kind of pathetic move pool unless you use TMs. Most notably, it doesn't even learn Lick in Gen 1. And its stats are just kind of unimpressive overall. It has decent HP, but everything else is just kind of meh. The one thing that apparently it could do decently in the early games is you could give it Swords Dance through TM, so it can at least make use of that, because like most normal types, it does learn sort of a variety of other types of moves through the TM, so you can give it somewhat of a move pool. but you have better options. And it's unfortunate because I do kind of like the design on this one. The best explanation I've seen for it is it's basically just they wanted to make a Pokemon with a big tongue, so they did, and what it was based on beyond that point is just kind of irrelevant. It does look like a salamander, but I don't think it's supposed to be one, and it doesn't really look like a chameleon despite the tongue or anything really other than that. The closest it comes to really resembling anything is the Japanese monster Akaname, which is sort of a goblin that has a big tongue and kind of slobbers all over the place. Apparently they are known for licking the filth out of bathhouses, so that sounds very pleasant. But other than the tongue thing, it doesn't really look much like one. The name on this is pretty straightforward. Japanese name is Barrow Ringa. Barrow meaning tongue, and Ringa probably just referring to the rings on its body. And the beta English name was Tongue-Tied, Tide being spelled T-Y-D. I think that's actually kind of a better name than Lick a Tongue, but they're both okay. But yeah, there's not too much else to say about this one. You are very unlikely to use it in the early games, because in Gen 1, it was only available from an in-game trade in one of those buildings, like between a route and a city, so it's kind of out of the way. And in Japanese Blue, it's in the Safari Zone, and we all know how fun that is. And in Yellow, it's in Cerulean Caves, so you can't even get it until the post-game. In Gen 4, they gave it a little bit more of a reason to be used, at least in Platinum, when it became part of the regional decks, because it got the evolution, Licky Licky, which is often pointed at as one of the worst Gen 4 evolutions. I personally don't see it as being that bad. It's basically like a big baby or a glutton with a bib. It fits the personality of it. It's not the greatest Pokemon I've ever seen, but I don't hate it. And it got a decent stat boost overall. It's apparently known for having like the strongest explosion in the game because it gets stabbed from it. And in my opinion, the most interesting thing about it is the fact that you evolve it by teaching Lickitung Rollout. There were a few things in Gen 4 that needed to learn a new move to evolve. This was the only one that used that move, though, and it was kind of odd because it doesn't really have anything to do with Licky Licky other than it being like a big round thing. But usually when they make new evolutions like that, they go out of their way to make sure it's not possible in older games, which is why Leafeon doesn't use a Leaf Stone, that kind of thing. But you can actually teach Lickitung Rollout through a TM in Gen 2, and you can teach it through a tutor in Emerald and Purification in XD. So you could still get one, and yet it still wouldn't evolve for seemingly no reason, so they didn't really do a good job on that one. But yeah, that's Licky Licky. It's a thing. It's okay, I guess. Okay, so seriously, what the hell is up with the catch rates in Gen 2? That Lickitung was freaking absurd. How many Pokeballs did that take? 9? I was about to reset if that oh shit. Okay. I didn't save after catching that thing, did I? Okay, that's fine. Because we're gonna get prize money after this, and that means I won't be able to use the time reset code without looking up a new one, so let's just hope that I don't need to. There's 2 daytime exclusive Pokemon I wanted to get in Ice Path. It shouldn't take that long to get them. One of them has a fairly low encounter rate, but eh. So, yeah, this was the trainer that I fought last time that I got the evolution out of, and you know what that means. With a new evolution, we get a new Pokemon bio. So I guess we'll go ahead and do that. Which will probably be interrupted by me catching the more common of the 2 Ice Path things, but I'll be back when that's over with, I guess. Oh boy, we get to talk about Seadra. So, I think the most generic Pokemon to talk about in general are pure water types and middle stage evolutions, and Seadra happens to be both of those. So, there's not much to go on here. It's unfortunate, because I think Seadra does actually have a pretty decent design. It's just a spiky seahorse. It's not really that exciting, but it looks cool enough. it does nothing. There is nothing special about Seadra. So, when we talked about Horsea, I mentioned that in Japan, seahorses are called sea dragons, and that's kind of where they get some of their ideas for this evolutionary line in. And Seadra does evolve into a dragon, but it isn't one yet, and so it still doesn't really have much going for it. It's in this weird place where it almost has properties of a couple other types, but doesn't have them yet. Because it can learn Twister in Gen 2, which is not a good dragon move, but it's a dragon move. And in Gen 3, it learns Dragon Dance, which is not an attacking move, but it's a good stat-up move at least. And I actually learned, looking through its move pool throughout the generations, that it keeps Dragon Dance as a possibility until Sun and Moon, when it just suddenly stopped being able to learn it, and then they gave it back to it in Ultra Sun and Moon. I have no idea why they did that. But, it's like it gets that, and then it gets basically, in the early generations, the only things you can teach this thing are just the same water moves that everything else gets. Like, it gets Water Gun at a high level, it gets Hydro Pump, you can teach it Surf in Gen 2, you can teach it Waterfall, I think, I haven't even checked. And you can give it Ice Beam or Blizzard, like most water types, but that's really about it. The Pokédex mentions that it has, like, these poison spines on it, and that would be kind of cool. Like, there's a million other poison types. There's Tentacool and Tentacruel for water poison types specifically, and Quillfish in Gen 2. But we could have another one, I guess, but no, they didn't do that. It doesn't learn any poison moves at all. Like, it gets Toxic, but everything gets Toxic. In Gen 3, it can get Poison Point as an ability, which is fitting lore-wise, but it's also not really that good of an ability, so okay. That's really about it. Like, and the surprising thing that I didn't even realize is that stat-wise, it actually isn't that bad. It has 95 defense, 95 special attack. In Gen 1, it was just 95 special in general, so special defense also. 85 speed. Like, those are all pretty good. Its physical attack is meh, but it's not really going to be using it. Its HP is pretty bad. Its special defense in Gen 2 onwards is bad. But it's just, like, it's not horrible. It's just, it's a plain water type. There's 100 other ones you could pick from. Like, even Sea King, which is the most generic water type ever, is honestly more interesting because of how uninteresting it is. I don't know. It's just, that's the problem with Gen 1 water types. You have a million to pick from. Even if you didn't pick Squirtle as your starter, you're gonna go with something other than Seadra. Like, you're just never gonna use this thing. And because it evolves by trade, unless you are specifically wanting to use it for the challenge of it, or you don't have the item to evolve it yet, you're gonna evolve this thing as soon as you get it. You're gonna go straight from Horsea to Kingdra. Swinub is basically just a little brown oval, and surprisingly, there's actually a decent number of things to say about this one. I didn't think there would be. So the most notable thing about this Pokemon is its typing, Ice and Ground. That is a unique combination, and still is as of Gen 7. And it's not the greatest combination defensively, but offensively it's not bad, and it's just kind of a combination of two types you wouldn't expect to really see together otherwise, so I like it. However, it suffers from the same problem that a lot of other Gen 1 and 2 Pokemon do, which is it has kind of a really bad move pool. In this case, it gets no ground moves at all, other than TMs, up until Gen 4, which is kind of inexcusable. And in terms of ice moves, in Gen 2, it gets Powder Snow at level 10, which is a 40 base power move, which is fine. It's kind of like your Ember Water Gun type thing, but for ice. And then it gets Blizzard at level 46, and nothing in between. And that's really annoying, because if you want to use a Pokemon in, like, the main adventure and not just for, like, competitive, you kind of want to have more moves available so that you can have a progression. Like, that's the whole point of having a variety of, like, mid-power moves of each type, because Powder Snow is too weak to really use in the higher levels and like get any decent use out of, and you're not going to want to wait until Blizzard, so I don't know why they would do that. It's particularly bad because Swinub is actually really bad stat-wise. I never really realized it, but it has no stats above 50, and it doesn't evolve until level 33. So when you get it in Gen 2, like after the 7th Gen, because of the horrible level curve, it won't take that long to get it up if you spend some time training it, but it will take, like, you'll feel the weakness there until you can get it up to its evolution, so it's just kind of an unfortunate case. But aside from stats and move pool and all that, design-wise, like I said, it's basically just a little brown lump. As the name would indicate, it is a swine, or like a boar. It's basically based off of a wild boar piglet, which I had never really looked at before this, but it does have the stripes, it resembles those. It also looks a lot like an enemy from the Kirby series called a Naruf, which I didn't know the name of and had to specifically look up here, but it's basically the same exact design. So it works for what it is. As for the nub part of its name, it just has a little nub nose, I guess. There's not really any other explanation for that one. The Japanese name is Yurimu, or Yurimoo is probably how you say it. Uribo means wild boar piglet, which is very specific, and boo boo is like an oinking noise. I still don't know where the M comes in from that, but I've decided that I've basically come to accept I don't understand the Japanese names, so nothing new there. The only other real noteworthy thing about this one is it actually pulls off the Fear Rattata strat pretty well, which is where you use a level 1 Swinub, basically have it take a hit with a Focus Sash, use Endeavor to get the opponent down to 1 HP, and then use a priority move to finish it off. In this case, you would be using Ice Shard. It works well because it's ground and ice, which is immune to sandstorm and hail, so you cannot abuse weather to get by the strategy there. So it at least has a little niche. Okay, so we sure are just partway through Ice Path. I wasn't planning on doing this boulder puzzle yet, because I thought that I could get into encounters in the floor below this, but I did some wiggling. I tried a little bit of shimmying and shaking down here. Okay, no, they do exist. Come on, 1 out of 20. Damn it. I think it's a 5% on this floor. I don't know. But yeah, there's a bunch of floors to this, and I don't remember if this was the case in Gold and Silver. I looked at the Cerebi encounter tables before this, but I didn't memorize them by any means. Basically, in Crystal, our good friends Zubat and Golbat are on every floor, and then we have Swinub as a daytime Pokemon, and there's a nighttime one that replaces it, which we'll be getting later. And then there's 2 rarer Pokemon, one for day, one for night, that become more common the deeper you get. So I was hoping to get the one of those on this floor without having to do that whole boulder puzzle, but it's fine. So I guess at this point we're just going to kind of go through the cave. I, again, wasn't really planning on having that be the case yet, but that's fine, I guess. There's no trainers or anything in here. We'll just clear it out of its items, and I suppose once I get to Blackthorn, I can set my fly point and not have to worry about going through it a second time. There's probably hidden items in here somewhere, if I had to guess. I don't frickin' know. The one thing I do know is this place received a considerable graphical overhaul for Crystal, because in Gold and Silver it was decidedly a lot lamer looking. It was just kind of your typical boring brown cave with ice floors. So it's certainly a lot better in this version. Also, I kind of love how the waterfall HM is just kind of in here. Like, completely unadvertised. Like, I don't know if you missed that. I got it shortly after coming in. it's there. How do I get that item? Probably... Actually, no. How do I get that item? Because I can't go down from here. Hold on. This is probably really simple. Let me go around again. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've probably talked about this before, but I do think it's weird how in Gen 1, a lot of the HMs were like these considerably difficult things you had to get. Surf and Strength were both locked behind the Safari Zone and were relatively out of your way. Cut, you had to go through a whole ordeal to get from the SSN. Fly, not as much. It was just kind of in an obscure location, and then I guess the same could be said for Flash. How do you get this item? I think I'm just really... Oh, I get it. Do this. Is that rest? I feel like 44 is rest. There's certain numbers that I just remember and have no reason to. Yeah, it is. I think rest is considered useful on Kingdra. I mean, it's good on any Pokemon that has decent defenses, if you combine it with, like, a Chesto Berry. Or, I guess Chesto Berry isn't in this generation, it's the, just... Is it Mint Berry that wakes you up in this one? I don't remember. But, for in-game, it's not... for in-game, not really what I need to be worrying about too much. Okay, I don't want to be going up. Uh-oh. Someone stashed a max potion in this boulder. And I just happened to press A and find it. Okay. Turns out that boulder is like the remains of someone who died here and like fast fossilized eons ago. And once again, just kind of found a big block of iron in the corner. Okay, I'm like... Just insert that gif of, like, the person seeing math equations and overanalyzing the shit out of everything. That's basically what I was doing in that situation. So yeah, I notice I'm going higher and higher here, which was not my initial intention, but... I guess we'll get to Blackthorn and then we can backtrack. Because I have no idea what floor I'm on. I think the one with, like, the floor that you push all the boulders onto was the deepest part of this. Yeah, here's Blackthorn. Okay, good, you're not a trainer. I solved a relatively simple boulder pushing puzzle, therefore I am in the top percentage. I don't remember if you have to visit the Pokemon Center to be able to fly to it, but I figured might as well. Gotta heal the, like, 3 PP that I lost catching the Swinub. Okay, so, how much time do I have to find this other Pokemon? 8 minutes. That's not as long as I was hoping. I could always look up the code again, but I don't want to do that. I kind of want to get it out of the way and not have to worry about that. So let's go as deep as possible into this place. Okay, we're down another floor. And, okay. Like I said, it appears in the most of the higher floors anyway. It's not on ground level, but it's like if you go down only one floor, it's like a 1% encounter rate, and then it gets better the lower you go. Okay, is this as far down as we can go? I believe it is, so I think it's 10% here. Let's hope that we get lucky. So, while looking for it, I will mention that part of the reason I'm even recording this in the first place is because I randomly got into a Pokemon mood, which doesn't happen to me too often anymore. I tried playing Ultra Sun again a couple days ago and like barely progressed at all. I did finally go through a bit more of it today. Just I'm in the Aether Paradise right now. I still don't have a whole lot of interest in completing that game, and I don't know what to point at specifically, like what to point the blame at. But it's probably just a combination of the fact that it's so plot driven, and it's a plot that I've already seen once, and nothing is different in the sequel. And there's not much variation. It's just like, here's some guys to fight, go do it, shithead. And like, can I maybe explore? No? Okay, that's fine. But I don't know, I mostly enjoy this series for the collection aspect, and Gen 7's lack of a national dex, and the fact that, like, I put so much effort into catching everything in Moon already. Like, I kind of don't want to do it again, because I really, really hate the SOS battles. It's like, I think it added 100 Pokemon to the regional dex. I should probably get all those, and then, like, the stuff exclusive to Island Scan and the legendaries and stuff, but so much of that is, like, far away from where I am right now. It's just kind of a grind to even get there. But yeah, I did that, and then I wound up finding a YouTube channel, Johnstone. I can recommend those videos to anyone who has not seen them before. He does a few different types of things, mostly Pokemon stuff, but the ones that I was watching were the, like, catch everything from insert generation here in 24 hours, which is kind of absurd, but he does manage it. The Gen 2 one is like, you don't get all 251, you get the 100 new Johto Pokemon, and then same thing for Hoenn. I think Hoenn didn't quite make it in the 24-hour limit. It was a little bit over. But it's still crazy that you can do it that fast. I am far from being quick at this, because I don't, I'm the stubborn type of asshole who will spend hours trying to get something in what I consider the right way, rather than, like, the many easier opportunities that the game provides for me. So yeah, I'm not going to check the Pokegear here. When I eventually find the rare encounter, I don't know if it's going to be the day one or the night one. We'll find out when it happens. I'll take either at this point, but if it is the night one, I'll be a little bit annoyed because I'll have to reset. As long as I'm finding Swinubs, I know that, I know it's still before 6 PM now. Also, real fun footage here, just me biking back and forth. I know this is the content that you all dream of. Yeah, Golbat, you know, you can kind of stop showing up. I'd be fine with that. I suppose theoretically I could come in here with something of the proper level and use the repel trick to, like, only encounter the thing I want, but that would have taken thought, which clearly this did not include. Okay, it is still day. Good, now we just have to not kill it, and we'll be fine. Alright, so I don't want to risk KOing this thing with a critical hit, because at this point it's probably already after 6. So we're gonna put it to sleep after it puts me to sleep, and I have to sit through 5 turns most likely. And hopefully a couple Great Balls will do it. I've used Great Balls on other stuff in this playthrough, so I don't feel bad about doing it here. Let's see, if I can nab it in the first one, then I'll be happy. If not, we'll start the bio as soon as it breaks out. And as I knock the mouse out of my hand, apparently. Jynx really is an unfortunate case. It's usually pointed at as the worst Pokemon of Gen 1, or at least one of the worst. And for me, it's actually one of my favorites, and I don't really have a good reason as to why, other than possibly just being contrarian. I can definitely see why people were turned off by it. The most well-known thing about Jynx is the controversy surrounding it. The fact that it basically looks like a person in blackface, that it's like a racist caricature. And it's debatable if it was ever really meant to be, but Japan is pretty bad with race relations, and I could definitely see that being the case. They did it with, like, Mr. Popo and Dragon Ball and other kind of stuff like that. It's just, they don't really see that as offensive necessarily, it's just kind of a stylistic choice, and it's not really as acceptable in other parts of the world. Which is why they changed Jynx from black to purple. Partway through Gen 2, they changed the sprites between the Japanese and English versions of Gold and Silver. And then for the Virtual Console releases of Yellow and even Pokemon Snap, they went back and changed it to purple. And I kind of like the purple better anyway, so that's fine as a choice. But if Jynx isn't meant to be racist, there's some debate over really what it was supposed to be, like, otherwise. One thing that gets mentioned a lot is the Japanese subculture of Ganguro, which is where you have, like, a fake tan and bleached hair and, like, way too much makeup. And I could potentially see that, but from what I've heard, apparently that fashion trend didn't start until Gen 1 Pokemon was really late in development, or, like, had already basically started, like, being printed, so it probably wasn't that. And then there's claims that it's based off of the Yuki Onna, which is like a Japanese ice witch type of thing, which is actually what Frostlass is based off of, and it could also be Jynx, but it's kind of a stretch. Like, it works, but it's not necessarily the thing that it's based on. It's probably a mix of a few different things, and I won't deny that there probably was some, like, bad intent behind it originally. But even ignoring all that, it just kind of fits in a few other roles as well. It's kind of like your classical, like, opera singing Viking woman type of thing. And it kind of is, it could be like a sea siren. An interesting thing that was pointed out on Bog Leech is the idea of its dress basically being kind of like a suction cup of, like, a mollusk, where it, like, perch on rocks and that kind of stuff. And I don't think that's what they were going for, but it fits oddly well. And it does have this design where there's, like, these two little kind of, like, tentacles that stick out of the side of the dress that are always there, and they're easily ignorable as just part of, like, the shape of the dress, but they're always there. It is kind of weird. I'm not really sure what those are supposed to be. But, yeah, aside from its basis and everything, like, you could talk about that stuff for ages, and I don't want to go into that again. Name-wise, Jynx is pretty straightforward, and then its Japanese name is Rougella, basically just going off of rouge, which is a type of makeup, so even that doesn't give any hints to its origin, really. Although you could say that that's part of the Ganguro thing, but who knows. But yeah, in terms of in-game use, Ice and Psychic are two of my favorite types, and I like the combination of them. It learns a lot of decent moves. Lovely Kiss is a good sleep move. It has good stats. It's a shame that it's not liked by most people. Like, I don't have a problem with the human-shaped Pokemon, but other people do. To be fair, I don't like Mr. Mime very much, and it's basically the counterpart to Jynx, but we'll get into Mr. Mime later. Yeah, I mean, the only other really thing to say about this one is, in the original games, it was a trade only. In Japanese Blue, you could find it in Seafoam Islands, but that was actually the only place you could find it in the wild in Gen 1. And then it started becoming available in the wild in later games, so it was pretty obscure in the early days, and that might be part of why I liked it, is just it's kind of this very strange thing that doesn't really fit in with a lot of the other animal-style monsters that you see around. It's just that you have all this stuff, and then you just kind of have, like, this weird lady in a dress with big hair, and she's an ice type. It's like, okay, that's interesting, I'll go for it. Okay, so, I guess I'm gonna have some blackness inserted before this encounter here to stretch out the Jinx bio, because, yeah, this is the other rare encounter of the area, and as I think at least one person guessed, we're also looking at our final team member here. Unfortunately, this one is a female. I was hoping to get a male just to kind of make the team a little bit more even, but I also don't really want to look for another one because they're kind of rare. Like, whatever. So yeah, Sneasel's a thing. I've never used it, and there's a few reasons for that, which I'll probably talk about in the bio here, but one thing that I'll mention about it specifically is it's, like, not that this is an exception to that, because this is after the 7th gym, but it's a Pokemon that's usually available very late into the game. It's also, it's like right before the 7th gym, I think, in Gen 4, and I want to say it might have been in the regional decks in Black and White too, like in the Giant Chasm area. I don't even remember. But yeah, it's like the ice areas are usually really late in the game, but this right here is nothing compared to Gold and Silver, in which it was located at Mount Silver, the very last area of the game. So if you wanted to use one, well, tough shit, you can't. So yeah, we're gonna add this one to the team. I'll have to think of a nickname for it. I was hoping to get a male, and I was gonna name it Cecil. Just because it... And we got it in a regular Pokeball, apparently. Okay, then. Alright, what do we want to name this? I guess I'll think of one here, and then we'll, go ahead and start the bio as soon as I put it in. Sneasel is one of those Pokemon that apparently got on the nerves of one of the developers, and so it just kind of got bad treatment for a while for no real reason. Usually the poster boy for that is Flareon, but I think Sneasel actually got it worse. And there's a few different reasons. One of them is in Gold and Silver, it wasn't available until basically the very end of the game. And in most games that it appears in after that, it's either post-game or very late, like after 7th gym. Also in Gold and Silver, its sprite is brown for some reason. I couldn't tell you why, but that's not really a reason why they hated it, I guess. It was just kind of weird that happened. But the most glaring reason is the fact that its stats are basically designed for it to be a physical glass cannon. It has a very high attack and speed, extremely low special attack, and low to middle defensive stats. But its type is Ice and Dark, which are both special types prior to Gen 4. So basically you have to choose between using stab moves that are really weak because it has no power behind them, or like high power physical moves that it's not getting any stab from. And that second option is the better one, but usually when you pick a Pokemon, like at least for me, if you're going to be using it in-game at least, you kind of want to be like, I want this as my ice type, and here it's like, well, you can't use it as an ice type, so too bad. So that's kind of unfortunate. You can teach it some decent stuff with TMs, but again, it's not going to really serve the role that you necessarily think it will at first. So, Sneasel is based off of a Japanese monster called the Kama Itachi, which is basically it's like a thing that rides in dust devils and has like long sickle-like claws that it can stab you with in the cold. I don't really know, but it fits Sneasel's description. It's just I don't really get what its deal is necessarily. Name on this one is just Sneak plus Weasel, and the Japanese name is Nyula, which comes from Senyu, which means sneaking in, or just Yu, which is Weasel. And that's pretty much all there is about Sneasel. It definitely got an improvement in Gen 4, though, when they fixed the physical special thing, so it could finally get some physical Ice and Dark moves. Then it also got the evolution, Weavile. In Japanese, it's Manula, which is the same name, but Ma at the beginning, which is for demon. And it's just Weasel and Vile. But, yeah, Weavile's just a general improvement. Boosts all its stats, pretty much just what you'd expect out of an evolution. And the evolution method is level up while holding a Razor Claw at night. Razor Claw being a new item introduced in Gen 4. I'm glad that they went with the level up route instead of making you trade for it, but I feel like making it at night specifically is a little weird. And also, Gligar evolves through basically the same exact method, but uses a different Razor item, and it can be a little tricky to remember which is which. But the main issue I have with Weavile is nothing to do with its appearance or stats or anything, it's just the fact that the Razor Claw itself can sometimes be annoying to get. In Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, it wasn't really a problem, but Heart Gold and Soul Silver, there just aren't any available, so you have to buy one from, like, the Battle Frontier with BP, and you have to do the same thing in X and Y, and in Sun and Moon, it's only found as a held item on Wild, like, Jangmo-O, so you kind of have to go out of your way to get the item, and if you don't have a guide, you're not really going to know to do this. Which is a problem with a lot of Pokemon, but it just kind of stands out with this one, because I don't like raising, like, a competitively viable team, and so if I have to grind for BP, it's never a pleasant experience. So, yeah, I just kind of wish they'd make those items a little more easily available. Alright, what did she buy? Fairy Doll, apparently. Okay. 2 collected. 95 to go. No, I don't know how many different dolls there are. I'm certainly not going for them all. Okay, so Camilla. Let's see. It didn't take me that long to encounter the Sneasel, and I caught the Jinx pretty much right at 6 o'clock. What time is it now? Yeah, I was staring at that nickname screen for a long goddamn time, looking up girls' names online, trying to find something that would work. I would just go. As I said, I was gonna go with Cecil if it was a male. I would just go with Cecilia, but I used that name for a Volcarona in White 2, and I didn't want to use the same name. So I was basically looking over anything that would be like similar to just Weasel or Sneasel in general, or its Japanese name, Neula. I thought about, like, Nyla or something similar to that, but, I also didn't want another N name when I already have Natalie, so it's like... Then I was going off of Kama Itachi, which is what it's based off of, so it's like, I don't know. It took forever to pick, but it's fine. So yeah, its moveset is kind of garbage. We're going with Ice Punch because I want to. It needs a move that isn't awful. And we're going to look up what other moves it can learn real quick here. Ooh, it can learn Shadow Ball, right? I think this is why I've been saving Shadow Ball. Yes, okay. We need to clone that one. I would do it now, but it's a pain in the ass. I should probably do a bunch of, like, TM cloning off-screen at some point. I'm not doing it in this video. Yeah, let's get rid of Leer. We don't need Leer and Screech. It's just stupid. So, let me real quick actually look up what this thing can learn naturally, because I don't happen to remember. And, as I'm sure I mentioned in the bio that I've not recorded yet, this thing suffers from basically its stab types not really lining up with its preferred stat use. That wasn't good phrasing. But let's see, in terms of moves it can learn through level up, it gets, Jack Point shit. No. Feint Attack is coming up in a couple levels. That's not that bad. It's not amazing, but it's okay. Fury Swipe sucks. Slash is good. That's at level 49, though. So basically, post-game. 57, it gets Beat Up, which is not a good move unless you're going for the Celebi Egg glitch. And 65, it gets Metal Claw. What the fuck? I could look over what TMs it gets. I'm not going to bother with that right now. We've already been staring at the screen long enough. Okay, so, whatever. We'll deal with just Ice Punch and Quick Attack for now. I'll teach it Shadow Ball after I clone the TM. That'll be a major priority between videos, basically. Because Shadow Ball's actually a good move. It won't get stab off of it, but it's better than nothing. So let's head back, because there's a bunch of trainers to fight, and there's other Pokemon to catch. There's still one thing in Ice Path that, I mean, we've already seen it. It's the Delibird. I didn't get the Delibird because it is an asshole and it flees when it gets a chance to. But, we'll be back for it. There's a couple things on this route I still need. And, there's also something on this route in Gold. It is not in Crystal for whatever reason. And that would be Remoraid. It is one of the like Pokemon that becomes more common once you get somebody to call about the swarm. Ugh. I don't like how Scratch and Screech are so similar to each other. That'll be the reason I replace one of those moves. But no, I think Scratch and Quick Attack are like the same damage output, so I'm just using Quick Attack. But yeah, I believe I have my Gold file played up far enough to get to this point. That's another thing I'm gonna probably do mostly off-screen, though maybe I can try and record it and insert it in the beginning of the next one, just to show how I'm gonna do it. Oh wait, here's Fan Attack. Okay. Well, we're getting rid of Scratch. Because Screech is not gonna help with increasing the power of Ice Punch or Fan Attack, because those are both special moves. But it will at least make Quick Attack stronger. So yeah, Screech is probably gonna go too. I'm assuming Sneasel can learn Swords Dance, right? Shit, is Swords Dance even a TM in Gen 2? I don't think it is. Why the hell is Defense Curl a TM? Oh my god. I swear, the early generations are, like... They hurt my brain. When you get used to the better move pools that are available to things later on, it's painful to see the limited options that you have. And it's not that big of a deal, because your opponents have the same problem. So, like, everything you fight is also going to have a garbage moveset, but it's just annoying to deal with. I don't like having, basically, my moveset be, like, 2 decent attacks, and then, like, a stat move I'll never use, and then a really shitty attack. And that's kind of what it comes down to most of the time. But yeah, the trick for Remoraid, I think the guy I'm fighting right now... God, that did, like, no damage. Yeah, we're gonna switch out here. I might actually want to give her the experience share after this battle, just to catch up. I don't even care who you do it. But yeah, I think this guy I'm fighting now is the person who calls you about the Remoraid swarm, and there is a way to kind of influence it, and I don't remember if I've mentioned this in a previous video. Apparently, every time, like, I'm not sure how to word this, because I don't know the exact mechanics behind it or why it works this way, but apparently if you keep talking to your mom and changing the, like, whether or not it's daylight savings time, every time you do this, it's like a 50% chance that somebody will call you. So if I erase all of the phone numbers except for him, and then just do that a bunch of times, it should be... Oh yeah, I love this. I've mentioned this before too. I don't understand this guy. It's like, basically like, hey, if a Pokemon is shiny, it's more valuable. And then your character is just like, no man, no! Don't even think that. asshole. Like, it seems really out of place. But yeah, I should basically be able to force the swarm. Maybe not, like, super reliably, but better than just hoping blindly that he calls about it. Because I think the encounter rate on that thing is non-existent until the swarm activates. Like, it literally has a 0% encounter rate until it's swarming. I know you can get it without the swarm with the super rod, but that's in Kanto, and I really don't want to play that far into gold just for a freaking Remoraid. I still need the Quillfish too, so I can do the phone number trick with this game, I guess. Except this game also has the people who call you about evolution stones, so I don't really want to delete their phone numbers. I could, like, delete them and then go add them again later, but I'm still just gonna kind of hope that eventually Ralph calls about the... It is Fisherman Ralph, right? That's the guy. Do I even have him registered? Yeah. I think she gives leaf stones, he gives fire stones. I don't remember if she does anything. And then here's the guy just added. He might give you water stones in this version. Because he certainly doesn't call about the swarm. Despite what Cerebi thinks. Because, like, if you look at the Poke Earth pages for this route on Cerebi, it does say that Remoraid is on that route. It's not. It, along with Girafarig and Mareep, are the Gen 2 Pokemon that aren't in Crystal. And I think the only other version exclusives are Mankey and Vulpix, which I've already traded for. So once I get this, I should be done with gold. And then the only other things I have to trade for after that are the red, blue, yellow exclusives, which there's a lot of. But I'm probably going to do that, like in Kanto. Speaking of Remoraid, let's verify that this thing does not exist in the wild in this game. After this battle, I'll check the Pokedex for it. But yeah, I should probably catch the other stuff on this route, because I'm going to need to insert my bios for them. Before I do that, though, I will mention, for some reason, this is a very memorable route for me. I say that a lot about Route 11 in Gen 1. Just, it's like this random area that just always sticks out in my head as being like a more memorable area than it really should be. Because there's really not a whole lot going on here. It's more or less just a straight shot to the ice path with like a little pond and an island in the middle. Nothing too special. But I know I did a lot of leveling up here for Pokedex, like evolutions, which is probably a stupid idea because there's way better places you could do it, but it's mainly grass types that you encounter, so I remember making use of that whenever I was trying to level up like a fire or flying type. I'd be able to prey on the weakness from the grass types. And the other thing I remember about this route is on that one fateful day, also here I go healing again, that one fateful day that I've spoken of a few times. Do I have the experience share? It's probably in the PC. It was the field trip to Springfield where I had originally beaten the Elite Four with my friend at the time. I've talked about that a few times. I had the strategy guide with me, and I probably already... No, there it is. I showed it to somebody, like, not the one who was playing through it with me, but he was looking through it and saw the legendaries, and I was mentioning how, like, they basically roam around the world and you have to track them down and stuff, and I had looked at the Pokedex for all three of them, and I had seen that Suicune was actually on that route. Or, like, I think we were, like, tracking it down, and it ended up on that route, like, while we were there also, and he's looking around for it, and there's no grass that's immediately obvious, And he's just like, where do I find it? Like, I don't see where I'd get it. And so I said it's in the water. And his response was just, you have to fish for it! Like, extremely, like, over-exaggeratedly surprised. I don't know. It's not even that funny, but I just remember that for some reason. Imagine, though, if there was actually a roaming Pokemon that you had to track down, and then when it was on the same route as you, you had to actually fish for it. That would be such garbage, because, if there's no way to track it without seeing it first, like, you're never gonna find that thing accidentally. Like, in the later generations, they have there's usually, like, other ways to track them, like Gen 4 has the Poketch thing, but, that'd be awesome. But yeah, in this game, that would have been really bad. Speaking of the roamers, didn't I encounter Raikou? I don't remember. Was it Raikou or Entei? I encountered one of them way back, like right after I released him from the tower, and I have not seen any signs of them since. So hopefully the other one will just randomly show up at some point, but it's probably not too terribly likely, and I'll have to go out of my way to force an encounter with it, which basically means shuffling between routes 36 and 37 over and over again until it eventually appears, which will take like an entire day. But we're not going to worry about that yet. All three of the beasts can wait, and I know that Suicune has, like, it's not nearly as bad because it's not a roamer in this game, but I also, until I got access to Blackthorn, I didn't really have a way to get Ultra Balls, I don't think. Ew, why am I still in the new Pokédex order? I hate this order. Yeah, it doesn't exist. Which I thought usually if you couldn't find it anywhere, it specifically said like location unknown. I guess not. Okay. Yeah, sure enough. First try. Alright, I'll take it. I won't be able to trade it over because I don't have any batteries for the GBA. I meant to buy some today and just forgot about it. I have a GBA SP somewhere, but it's probably not charged, and hell if I know where the charging cable for that thing is. And I've got several Wiimotes sitting around with corroded batteries, so those aren't going to work. I don't think we have any anywhere else, but we can at least catch this thing. I'm surprised that guy didn't fight me, I probably already did. Do you still have Ember? Nah, quick attack might be okay, though. Or just poison powder, honestly, might be the best way to go here. Because, do you have the good rod at this point in the game? Yeah, you do. I should know this. I don't know why I don't remember. I think it's the same encounter rate, whether it's old or good rod, but I'm not positive of that. So, yeah, I guess we'll just go ahead and snag one of these. Well, really, I should get two of them, because I have to evolve it. I could just breed one, but the Daycare and Crystal is currently inaccessible because I haven't officially picked up the odd egg yet. I've picked up many odd eggs, but never did it without, like, doing the dupe glitch, so the guy still has it, so I can't actually put anything into the Daycare until I decide to finally do that for real. Ice Punch might be okay, because it's non-stab, going off of Feraligator's worse attack stat, and it's resisted. Let's see. No. No, okay. I don't know how long the swarm lasts for either, or what the odds are of encountering one. So that's unfortunate. I think Poison Powder might be the way to go. Or you know, just heal the Farfetch'd. But I don't want to leave the route now. That'll be like bad juju. Yeah, knocking my phone off the couch. Yeah, because I'm trying to grab it to look up encounter rates while doing this and not remembering that it's plugged in. Also, sitting on the floor 3 inches in front of the TV, 3 a.m. on a frickin' Wednesday morning, because I mean, not that the day or time matters, but okay, there's one. How many Pokeballs do I even have? Yeah, I've got a few. I have a Lure Ball. I could try to use that. Now, Poison doesn't increase catch rate in this version. I think in Gen 2 it doesn't. It's only Sleep and Freeze that do. But we'll still try it, I guess. I'm gonna... I'll throw a regular Pokeball when it gets to, like, half health, and then if that doesn't get it, we'll do the Lure Ball. I don't think I'm using this game for really anything else after this, unless there's items that are like specific to this. Or, no, because yeah, I've got to use this one for the Celebi Egg glitch at some point, don't I? Not that that has anything to do with what I was saying, because I'm basically just saying like I'm never going to play this again after catching this thing, but that's not true. Plus, I have to use it for trade evolutions. You know what? Let's just go for the Lure Ball. Why not? It'll be special. Watch it not work. Alright, cool. So, yeah, I'll grab another one of these. Don't really need to record it. And at some point, trade them over. And I guess that's about it for right now. But yeah, let's encounter something else that I need to catch here. And is this one of them? Nope, it's Poliwag. Haven't seen one of those before. Oh boy, paralyzed and 10 HP. Winning combination. Yeah, let's not have you be in the front, actually. You're my dedicated catching Pokemon because you can put stuff to sleep. There should be 2 things on this route that I can find, whether it's day or night. And Poliwag is not one of them, so you can go away. I don't need you. Alright, this time. 3rd time's the charm. Yep, okay. So, let's talk about Tangela. Here we have another one of those forgettable, semi-obscure Gen 1 Pokemon, and it's Tangela. This one never really had a whole lot going for it, unfortunately, and it's never been one of my personal favorites or anything, but I always did sort of appreciate it for the underdog that it is. I think it's just kind of a charming design. It's basically a Medusa head is the thing that people kind of liken it to the most, except it's vines instead of snakes. I don't know if it's necessarily supposed to be that. I always just kind of see it as a big walking ball of vines or like a tumbleweed. And I do like tumbleweeds, so that gives it some bonus points for me. Or basically it's just kind of like a face peeking out of a bush. Like you don't see what's hiding in there. So it's kind of just like Sonora card gauge suspiciously rising out of the bush. Or it's a fry guy from McDonald's. So just kind of combine all those things together and you get Tangela. And name on this one, of course, straightforward. The beta name for it was actually Medusa with a Z. And the Japanese name is Monjara, which possibly comes from Moja Moja, meaning shaggy or unkempt. And Kemu Kujara, which means hairy. So, There's a few reasons why this thing was overlooked. One of them, of course, being the fact that it doesn't evolve, or at least didn't up until the later games. It's just kind of tucked away in an obscure place. You'd find it in the grass south of Pallet Town, and there's not really any reason to go down there otherwise. And stat-wise, it's below average mostly, other than having pretty good defense and special attack. Moveset-wise, it's of course bad, but that was the case for basically everything in Gen 1. In Red and Blue, the only grass-type move it would actually get is Absorb. It didn't even get Vine Whip until Yellow, and then it steadily got a little bit better from there. But in Gen 1, if you wanted to actually use this thing, your best bet was with Bind and Sleep Powder, just due to how broken Sleep in general and the trapping moves in Gen 1 were, which is not really the most exciting way to fight your opponent in-game, so I can see why you'd overlook Tangela. But it at least wasn't completely worthless. And also, in regards to it being forgettable, this is completely beside the point, but I remember this contest in an issue of Nintendo Power that had all the Pokemon Stadium models of the original 150, except there was one missing, and the contest was to send in a letter with the one that's missing, and the answer to it was Tangela, so it's they left it out knowing that people would probably not notice it was gone. And in Gen 4, when they finally did give it the evolution, they actually forgot to put it in the game anywhere. It was theorized that it was supposed to be a possible swarm on top of Mount Coronet, but that was never really proven. But yeah, every other Pokemon that wasn't a starter or a legendary was actually available between Diamond and Pearl, and the if you did the GBA insertion method, you could get them to appear, except for Tangela and Tropius. And given the fact that they actually did give an evolution to Tangela that generation, that's pretty bad. It's unclear if they just forgot about it or if that was intentional. They did put it into my Pokemon Ranch, though, because, people got that game. But, yeah, in Gen 4 it evolved into Tangrowth by learning Ancient Power, which it would get at level 33. And Tangrowth is basically just Tangela, but more so. People like to kind of point it out as being uncreative, but really, if we're going off of the way that a lot of Gen 1 Pokemon evolved, just kind of becoming bigger isn't really that unusual, and I think it works for it. It also kind of looks like a caveman, which works with the Ancient Power tie-in. It kind of makes sense that way. And it's just generally a welcome boost in stats. It made it a little bit less irrelevant, and I think that it's more important to give evolutions to the overlooked Pokemon than the ones that everybody already likes, because they need the help more. So, yep, Tangela's cool, Tangrowth is also cool, but most people probably won't use them. So, you may notice I still don't have the Tangela, even though I finished the bio on it. I'm gonna get one after I catch this Weepinbell. I'm also a big fan of how frickin' Alan called me about his Tangela after the first one ran away. That was a nice, insult to injury there. But yeah, I, despite the fact that the, Delibird ran away earlier, I forgot that Tangela could do that. I think, in this game, there's a fastball that is supposed to be used for stuff that can flee. It's supposed to have, an increased catch rate on those. And it works on, I think, 3 Pokemon, Magnemite, Grimer, and Tangela. And nothing else, even though other stuff can also flee. And I still stand by my statement from a while back that I have no recollection of any Pokemon being able to flee in Gen 2 other than the roaming legendaries. Which is really weird because the chances of Delibird doing it is apparently 50%, and same goes for a lot of other stuff like Phanpy, but either way, whatever, here's Weepinbell. Let's talk about this thing for a bit and hunt down a Tangela. Weepinbell is the evolution of Bellsprout at level 21, and it evolves into Victreebel through one of 3 methods. You can either give it a Leaf Stone, you can knock it into a small puddle using a Pester Ball, or you can leave it in a suspect breeding center overnight and it'll just magically evolve on its own. But seriously though, no, this is a middle stage evolution, which we all know are kind of the ones that have the least to talk about in most cases. Weepinbell's no real exception. I do like its design. I think it's really dopey looking, and I say that as a positive thing. It's nice, easy shapes to draw. It's just generally kind of likable. But in terms of like anything that it specifically does interesting that either of its other relatives don't, there's not a whole lot to say about. So basically, the name on this one, I always thought was a bit arbitrary. Like, it's not sad, why is it weeping? But it's called that for the same reason that the weeping willow is called what it is. It's just a plant that droops. Apparently that is a term, and I just never really realized it. And the bell part is pretty obvious. The Japanese name is Utsudan, which comes from Utsubo Kazura, which is a bit of a mouthful, and is the Japanese word for pitcher plant, which is what it's based on. Just the carnivorous plant that basically kind of like lures bugs to fall inside it. Except in this case, the opening is on the bottom, and it will eventually switch once it evolves. So, I'm not going to be going over stats or move pull or anything, because that would be the same as both of its other stages, so we're basically just going to go on a couple tangents here. I mentioned earlier you could leave it in the breeding center and it would just evolve overnight, and that was from the anime, because in the breeding center secret, James just kind of announces that the Weepinbell he left there had evolved into a Victreebel, and so from that point on, he has a Victreebel, but you never saw the Weepinbell before this, and it was never mentioned. And it's not the case of, like, just weirdness going on behind the scenes or anything. Like, there was some... I didn't even talk about Jesse's Lickitung during that bio, but, like, there was some weirdness with episodes being aired out of order, with the whole incident with, like, the Porygon seizure stuff. Like, some episodes got shuffled around because of holidays. And, then there was the whole thing where, like, the Safari Zone episode where Ash caught all those Tauros was banned in the US, so he just kind of got them out of nowhere, if you didn't know about the Japanese episodes. But this was not one of those cases. He just caught it off-screen, never mentioned it, left it in the daycare off-screen, and then it evolved, and then it just kind of became a running gag. But that's a different story entirely. But the other thing I wanted to mention about this one is the original card for Weepinbell from the Jungle set shows a bird standing on its head, and that is one of a few instances where a real-life animal can be seen, like, in the Pokemon world. Another notable one was in the SSN episode in the anime. You could see some fish swimming by. It's been ages since they've done this, and so it's pretty clear to me that they've basically retconned this. Like, animals were never meant to exist in this world, but for some reason people will, like, still to this day, 20 years later, will point these out as, like, proof that there are real animals. Like, they don't eat Miltank burgers, they have real cows, you just don't see them. It's like, no. Stop pointing at extremely old stuff that they want you to forget about. It's no longer relevant. Give it up. Thank fucking Christ. I'd like to point out the encounter table on this route here. Let me pull it back up so I make sure I'm not saying the wrong information here. For Pokemon Crystal, at night, Poliwhirl and Weepinbell, both 10%. Bellsprout, 20%. Poliwag and Tangela, 30%. Did that look like 30% to you? Because it didn't look like it to me. That was... this entire video has just been, like, the stupidest luck. It starts out with the password being 01234, and it's like, okay, so we used up your luck to make, like, an arbitrary password that is notable, so that means everything else is gonna be shit. Except it hasn't been, because we also got the Jinx right before time switched over, and the Sneasel not long after that, so it's like... It's been throwing me a bone, but with certain stuff, it's just been really stupid. So, I think the only thing left... oh, I never fought this guy, apparently. Okay. Yeah, I should probably clear out the route. The only thing left to catch should be the Delibird now. which apparently I had so much time while doing that. I was trying to look up info while I was doing it, and I looked up Tangela Cerebi. It has a 45 catch rate, which is pretty low, but it's not the worst. It's still pretty bad. That's tied with, like, Dialga and Palkia. I mean, those were always, like, overly easy to catch as it was, but it's still notably low. And then, I think Delibird is just as bad, except it has a 1 out of 2 chance to flee on every single turn. So, my goal with that one is to put it to sleep as early as possible, and then try to hit it with some kind of move that won't kill it. Stomp probably will, because, let's face it, it's Delibird. It is a piece of shit. So I won't be able to use that, and Mud Slap, even if it did hit it, would do dick for damage, but it won't because it's a flying type. So, I'll have to spend a turn switching if I'm going to try and damage it. Okay, let me make sure there's no other trainers on this route. I don't think there is. Whenever somebody has, like, more than one sentence of dialogue, I always... Oh yeah, you're definitely an elite. I always feel like they're going to be giving me a phone number, and I don't really want random people's phone numbers. At some point, I need to check for sure which ones give you evolution stones, and make sure I have all those registered. Yeah, I already know I talked to you. Okay, yeah, I guess that's it for Route 44, so let's head back into the cleverly named Ice Path. And this game has Dark Cave and Ice Path. They really went all out on this one. But yeah, here's Delibird again. I'll have words to say about this one when oh. Yeah, I need to be leading with a sleep move. Let's see if it survives a Feint Attack, and then maybe I can chuck a ball at it. Oh, yeah, okay. And it's gone. I've already been through this area once, and I don't see this capture going well, so I think we're going to do a fast forward here, and I'll see you on the other side. And finishing up this segment of single stage, forgettable, kind of bad Pokemon is the king of them all, Delibird. Although it's probably supposed to be pronounced Delibird. Nobody ever actually says it that way, but I'm pretty sure the name is supposed to be a pun on the word delivered, because it delivers presents, and it's a bird. And the name is the same in English and Japanese, so yeah, there's not really much else to go with here. It doesn't operate a deli, as far as I can tell, so it has nothing, that would have nothing to do with it. But, yeah, it's a penguin, specifically a rockhopper penguin is the one it resembles the most, and it's also just kind of Santa, and it has a sack of presents for a tail, and there's always people that will be surprised when they learn that. They think that it basically just drags around this big bag, but no, that's its tail. It just kind of stores stuff inside it. Honestly, it's not that bad of a design. I used to really like penguins. I still do. They're just not my favorite anymore. Delibird doesn't really do much for me as a penguin. It is more just kind of a hot mess, but it's like the design works. It's just it needs to be on a better Pokemon. So if you're not aware why this thing is bad, it's mostly just the fact that it only learned one move. In Gen 7, they actually switched things up a bit. It learns Drill Peck at level 25, which is not a bad move, but that's still 2 moves. But the other one that it learns is Present, which basically has random effects. The best thing it can do is 120 base power. I think it has a 10% chance of doing that. And the worst thing it can do is heal the opponent for 80 HP. And it's completely random what it does. And that's it. You can teach it other moves. It gets stuff through breeding, which, I mean, nobody wants to bother with that. But it also gets stuff through TM. It's kind of just the sort of stuff you'd expect, like some ice moves, some flying moves, generic normal stuff. Gets a few other things that you might not expect. I'm looking at the list right now. It gets Brick Break, that's something at least. Brutal Swing, there we go. But it doesn't really have the stats to pull it off. Like, it... Well, I'm doing this one so unprofessionally, I don't even care. Let's see, its highest stat is Speed, which is 75. Yeah, it's not very good. Its worst stat is a 3-way tie for the 3 defenses at 45 each. So, yeah, there's really no reason to use this thing. I did a, like, worst Pokemon of each generation run in X a few years ago, and Delibird was my Gen 2 representative. Unknown is worse. Like, to be fair, it's not on Unknown level, but it's not far off. Like, it at least can get a moveset. The question is, can it do anything with that moveset? And the answer to that question is no. And as far as abilities go, it can get Vital Spirit, which just prevents it from falling asleep, and that makes sense because it's Santa. Santa has to stay up the whole night. And Hustle, which lowers accuracy but increases attack, so that at least gives it a little bit more attack power, but it's at the trade-off of not being able to hit anything. But when the Dream World was released, they gave it a hidden ability, and it's Insomnia, which does the exact same thing as Vital Spirit, so Game Freak pretty much looks at this thing as a joke. There's not really any doubt that it was, there was no way this thing was ever meant to actually be good. Also, its Pokedex number is 225, which is similar to 1225, which is the date that Christmas is on. I don't know if that was intentional. Okay, I wasn't going to commentate over any other part of Ice Path, but I sure did find another Sneasel without trying, and it's a male. I'm not going to replace Camilla. I don't really care if the genders on the team are balanced or not. I usually like to try and make them so they are, but it's not a huge deal. But, yeah, that's a thing. So, yeah, I think we're basically done with this one. I'm not gonna do anything with the gym. I guess I have access to Route 45 also, south of Blackthorn, which has at least one new Pokemon on it that I can think of. Probably 2. Because there's one that's a Gold exclusive, one that's a Silver exclusive, and I assume they're both there in Crystal. I don't actually know if they moved one of them somewhere else. But yeah, we'll worry about that later. I think one thing I kind of do want to try, though, is see how well that alleged change daylight savings time trick actually works. So I think I'm actually going to go ahead and pop in Gold after this and revisit that version real quick. I said this wasn't going to be a long video, and I don't know how long it's going to be after editing. In real time, it's been excessively long. Let's see, it's... Well, yeah, okay, it's been at least an hour and, like, 35 minutes so far, but a lot of that's going to be cut down a bit. Yeah, let's go ahead and save here. And, go ahead and grab my copy of Gold here. I have it on the table next to me. I have no idea where I've even saved in this game. Here we go, second try. 1996, what? Oh right, this isn't Gold at all, this is Pocket Monsters Blue. No, I have no idea why I even popped this in. I bought this game, like, months ago, and haven't done anything with it because it can't hold us. Ooh, that's a glitched sprite. I don't know what happened to it. But yeah, oh! Oh god! I swear to God that wasn't me editing anything in. That actually happened. Okay, you know, I popped this in as like a quick gag. Just like the fake out, like, oh, I'll show that I have this game and remind you that I'd like to do something with it, but then I'll actually put in gold. But no, I think we're good. I think the demons haunting that game can end this segment here. So let's be done. See you next time. Oh God.